Hey, it's Warren Sprouse. Welcome you back to the program. We're here for you every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Love for you to join us live here at thebibleforum.net. But if you can't, we certainly understand that. We're looking at Christianity and liberty. What made America great? Was it our climate? Was it our diversity? Was it our politics, our religion? Biblical character qualities, there are at least 60 or 70 of them, define and describe godly character. And among these are self-respect, hard work, diligence, self-sufficiency, determination, honesty, integrity, and the list goes on. Opportunity and responsibility took hold long before government set the various controls and protections in place. In recent years, these controls and protections have actually interfered with opportunity and business under the guise of, well, we're looking out for you, the little guy. We're here to help you. What they used to say about the government? Look out when they show up. Say, we're from the government. We're here to help. Run. And there's plenty of room for protection. Of all the nations of the earth, America stands out as unique. We have not been proud of that of late. We've had politicians and social scientists and other people trying to tell us the other opposite. And we've been embarrassed about our wealth and our power and the engine that we run here and the way we live. But all you have to do is watch television. Go online. I mean, this whole thing with Netflix has just been an eye-opener. We see movies from countries around the world. And these people are living in the 1980s, 1990s the way I lived in the 1950s. But we were not allowed to think that we were better. We were better. We can be better. America has grown to be more wealthy than all other nations. She's embraced every nationality, rendering those immigrants wealthy beyond anything they could have achieved in their native lands. There are exceptions, but they're very small. She's powerful in the world. Her engine of industry outstrips other nations. Her creativity and ingenuity is the marvel of all men. Her economy dominates the world. Her moral character is unique in the world. Her military keeps the peace everywhere. At least it used to. America and American values are and have been in decline. Once powerful and moral people are racing toward political, financial, and moral oblivion just as fast as their little feet can take them. What happened? French diplomat, political scientist, historian Alexis de Tocqueville spelled it out 180 years ago. After traveling 9 months throughout the United States, he wrote a book entitled Democracy in America, 1835. He sought to explain what he saw and what he predicted would and could happen should Americans ever abandon their values. He said it was their religion that struck him the most. He wrote, Christianity and liberty, united and reigning in common, is the American reality. He called it a democratic and republican religion, not a Republican Party. There was no Republican Party. He noted that Christianity is so established and ingrained, no one undertakes to attack it or to defend it. Of America, he wrote, no country in the world is as free or as prosperous. There is no greater proof of Christianity's utility and conformity to human nature than its powerful influence over this most enlightened and free nation of the earth. But how to destroy it? How would you go about destroying America if you could? De Tocqueville suggested that should its leadership encourage men to enjoy themselves for no reason other than the enjoyment of it, then moral autonomy would be gradually removed, and its citizens would be caught up in a powerful grasp. He observed that this sort of immorality softens men's will. It doesn't break men's will, but it does bend it, controlling them, inhibiting them, repressing them, draining them, and snuffing out the high moral purposes and goals that sustain, until the nation is reduced to nothing more than a flock of timid and hard-working animals with government as their shepherd. It would then be useless to call upon those very creatures who have become so dependent upon central government to choose from time to time the representatives of their own government. Having given up self-government, these men would be unable to successfully choose those who could do this or should do for them. The vices of those who govern and the ineptitude of the governed would soon bring America to ruin and cause it to devolve into one single master. Today, Dan Smith from the Nehemiah Institute found that had millennials voted in the 2016 presidential race, the results would have been 504 electoral college votes for Hillary Clinton and 23 for Donald Trump. Republicans would have carried only 5 states. Who are these millennials? They are 18 to 34-year-olds, born of the children of baby boomers, college age, living in their parents' basements, reared on TV, internet, Facebook, and Twitter. They are not religious unless you count decadence as a religion. They're willing to abandon universal absolutes in favor of what they want, what they believe they need. Think homosexuality, transgenderism, non-parenting. Convinced government exists to make their lives easier. Globalism, environmentalism, universalism are their religions. And anybody who doesn't care about the little guy, about the minority, whatever it might be, is a heretic. And they need to go to jail or be hung out to dry somewhere. Who are these people? Are they Americans? A man by the name of Greg Swank wrote an article in 2011 entitled "The Year That Changed Everything." I shared it on the radio in September of that year. He says by 1963, television was a leading source of entertainment. The public enjoyed a different type of programming back then. Lessons on life could be viewed weekly on Leave It to Beaver or My Three Sons. There were heroes back then that never drew blood. The Lone Ranger, Superman. Several cartoon series evolved, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, without messages of empowering the children, without using vulgarities or demeaning parental guidance. Families could spend a weekend evening watching Ed Sullivan, Bonanza, or Gunsmoke. For those who enjoyed thrill and suspense, we were blessed with Alfred Hitchcock Presents and The Twilight Zone, My Favorite Martian, Ozzie and Harriet, Donna Reed, Sea Hunt. Movie theaters were not multiplex units with 15 screens, rather one single giant big screen with adequate sound and hard seats without springs. Tom Jones won an Academy Award for Best Picture. Not the singer, the movie Tom Jones. How the West Was Won, Cleopatra, Lily of the Fields, The Great Escape, The Birds, and It's a Mad, 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 Mad World were all box office hits. By year's end, the Beatles had played for the British royal family and were laying the groundwork to conquer the U.S. the following year. Out on the West Coast, the surf was beginning to rock and roll with the Beach Boys and their first song to reach the top 10 list, Surfin' USA. The joys of Jell-O recipes for quivering fluorescent foodstuff hit the stores. U.S. postal rates went up to 5 cents for the first ounce. AT&T introduced touch-tone telephones. The Yankees played in the World Series again, but lost to the Dodgers in 4 straight. The government and NASA began the Apollo program. This is just a brief snapshot of some of the things that were going on back in 1963. Remember? Well, some of these events played an important role in the direction of change that has affected us today. Many of them were lost to much greater, more political events that I believe put everything into motion. On January 10th, 1963, the House of Representatives and later the Senate began reviewing a document entitled Communist Goals for Taking Over America. It contained an agenda of 45 separate issues that in hindsight was quite shocking then and equally shocking today. In part, it said, permit free trade between all nations regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. It talked about extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites, setting up East and West Germany as separate states, promoting the UN as the only hope for mankind, doing away with all loyalty oaths, using technical decision of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violated civil rights. Control art critics and directors of art museums. Quote, our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. Eliminate all laws of governing obscenity by calling them censorship and violating of free speech and free press. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. Discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Internationalize the Panama Canal. A representative list, not exhaustive. In 1963, the news media showed women burning their bras as the women's liberation movement took off with the publishing of The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. On June 17, 1963, the U.S. Supreme Court concluded that any Bible recitation in prayer in public school was deemed unconstitutional. That was number 27 on that list. In reviewing the research, data supports 1963 as a focal point, demonstrating a downward slope in our moral and social decline through 2001. A series of Supreme Court decisions placed us on a downward moral slide, culminating in 1973 with Roe v. Wade. We have never recovered. Millennials, their parents lived through that time period. They were being born and influenced over that next couple of decades. Statistics show the decline in education, the family, morality, religion, finances. It also shows an escalation in terms of abortion, STDs, homosexuality. And it all began in that same 10-year period. And still, we don't see it and we don't get it.